When we quietly gaze out into the vastness of the world without trying to complicate our thoughts, something begins to emerge on its own, gently prompting the heart to question, why are human lives so profoundly different from one another? Some people seem to begin their journey with the wind already pushing them forward, as if every path had been carefully prepared before they even took their first step, while countless others must struggle through fierce storms before they have even begun to understand the world at all. And when we observe deeply enough, the question of life's fairness slowly arises without anyone needing to plant it in our minds. Is all of this merely coincidence, or is there a deeper mechanism quietly unfolding behind the scenes? The word karma is often offered as the explanation. Yet the difficulty lies in how many people misunderstand karma in ways that make life feel heavier than it truly is. We tend to imagine karma as a system of punishment, a force that repays actions directly and mechanically, do good and receive good, do wrong and suffer in return, as though existence were governed by a simple and predictable equation. In truth, according to the teachings of the Buddha, karma has never functioned as a system of revenge. It is instead a gradual transformation of the mind's quality, quietly shaping the course of life over time. A single action does not always return as the exact same event, but rather evolves into tendencies that influence future experiences. For example, harming another living being does not mean one must inevitably be killed in return by the same hand. Instead, it leaves subtle imprints within the stream of consciousness, traces that may later appear as fragile health, a shortened lifespan, or repeated encounters with danger, without anyone deliberately delivering punishment, because all of it unfolds simply through the natural interplay of causes and conditions, accumulating in ways far too intricate for ordinary perception to see. And once this truth is understood, the feeling that life is unfair begins to soften in a strangely peaceful way, because we start to realize that no life truly begins from zero. Each existence is merely continuing a story that has been unfolding far beyond a single lifetime already past. Difference, then, is not the result of a biased world, but the unfolding sum of countless causes still moving and shaping the present moment. And the true turning point arises the instant the question within the heart shifts from, "Why is this happening to me?" to, "What am I creating right now?" Because in that very moment, a human being begins to discover genuine freedom, the realization that although we cannot choose our past, every thought, every word, and every action in the present still remains a steering wheel firmly held in our hands. However, as one begins to truly understand karma, another unseen trap often appears without warning, the urge to calculate life as if attempting to decode the universe itself. We long to know what we once did, who created which causes, why some people seem to flourish effortlessly while others struggle endlessly. And the more life appears irrational or unfair, the more the mind relentlessly chases after complete and final answers. And it is precisely at this point that the Buddha revealed a path profoundly contrary to human instinct, for he warned that there are certain things which, the more we attempt to think through them, the further we drift from truth itself, especially the matter of karmic results, known as the unfolding consequences of karma, which he placed among the unthinkable realities beyond the reach of ordinary intellectual speculation. Not because they are forbidden to know, but because a mind still entangled in craving and attachment cannot perceive such vast complexity accurately. The four inconceivables, the scope of a Buddha's wisdom, the depths of meditative absorption, the workings of karmic results, and speculation about the universe itself, are like the horizon. The more we walk toward it, the farther it recedes. Attempting to explain countless interwoven causes through ordinary logic is like trying to empty the entire ocean with a single small cup. The harder one tries, the more exhausted one becomes. And at times, the deeper one falls into misunderstanding without even realizing it. Many people quietly spend their life's energy chasing questions that never lessen suffering, wondering why others seem more fortunate, or what they themselves must have done in a past life. When in truth, karmic consequences have never functioned like a daily ledger open for immediate inspection. Because each action moves according to its own timing. Some bear fruit quickly, some wait for the right conditions, some are interrupted by other karmic forces, and some may not reveal their results within this lifetime at all. Thus, the attempt to trace endlessly back into the past becomes a labyrinth of thought, trapping the mind within things it was never meant to control. Thus, the Buddha gently shifted our perspective, revealing that liberation does not arise from knowing every answer life could possibly offer, but from clearly recognizing what is unfolding within the mind in this very moment. It is like a person struck by an arrow. If they waste time asking who shot it, from where it came, life may fade away before the arrow is ever removed. True wisdom, therefore, is not the understanding of the entire universe, but the knowing of what should be released, and what should be carefully tended. And when the mind finally stops exhausting itself with endless questions that can never truly be resolved, we begin to turn back toward the only place where the future can genuinely change, the intention arising in the present moment. Because every mental formation happening right now is quietly becoming new karma. And this is the point where understanding karma transforms from mere belief into direct experience, shifting from the attempt to control the outer world, into seeing the inner mechanisms of one's own mind with unmistakable clarity, until one day, it becomes evident that suffering does not originate from the world, nor from fate, but from the repeated clinging to body and mind, to forms and experiences that are forever changing. And as this understanding gradually deepens, the path toward Nibbana no longer feels distant or mysterious, but reveals itself as a gentle process of slowly reducing the causes of suffering, little by little, until the day the mind no longer struggles, no longer calculates, no longer carries the weight of the past or chases endlessly after the future. When the causes of clinging finally fade away, the cycle of wandering comes to a peaceful end, and within that stillness, human beings discover true freedom, a freedom not born from forcing the world to follow our desires, but from a mind that is no longer dominated by the world itself, arising through a profound and accurate understanding of karma and the unthinkables, reaching into the very core of life. And when the mind learns to firmly rest in the present like this, karma is no longer an abstract idea floating somewhere beyond reach, but slowly reveals itself as the invisible force continuously shaping life within every single breath, transforming the way we see the people around us in quiet and subtle ways, from once noticing only success or failure on the surface, to sensing that each life carries an unseen blueprint beneath it, a living imprint formed by actions and states of mind accumulated across a long and unfolding journey. The Buddha explained this truth through the concept of residual karma, a lingering echo that remains even after the primary karmic result has already unfolded, much like ripples that continue to move across the water long after the stone has sunk beneath the surface. Many times, when we see certain lives beginning amid hardship, poverty, or physical limitations, the human mind instinctively judges the world as unfair. Yet from the perspective of karma, such conditions may simply be the continuation of mental patterns once shaped by greed or the pursuit of gain without cultivating rightful causes, as seen in the state of gambling, which does not refer only to games of chance, but to a habit of mind that longs for results without willingness to build the causes that lead to them. When the mind repeatedly abides in such craving, eventually giving rise to misconduct through body, speech, and thought, karmic consequences inevitably leave their imprint. And even after the heavier results have passed, residual karma may still influence one to be born into circumstances marked by struggle or certain limitations, none of which are punishments, but merely the natural continuation of causes once set into motion. And yet, in profound contrast, the Buddha also revealed something deeply beautiful, that even the smallest details of our daily conduct, the quiet intentions woven into ordinary moments, possess the power to shape not only the quality of the mind, but even the form of the body and the vitality of life itself. Those who possess bright, serene, and beautiful eyes are not shaped by genetics alone, but by having once looked upon others without ill intention, without searching for faults, without glaring in anger, without storing countless moments of silent judgment within their gaze, instead offering a way of seeing that brings comfort to the world, and that very gentleness eventually returns as a beauty reflected upon themselves. In the same way, those whose skin seems radiant like gold often carry roots grounded in a wholesome mind, a mind inclined toward goodness, constantly reflecting on what should be done and what should be abandoned, while living with generosity offered in sincere respect, whether through food, water, clothing, transportation, fragrances, or light given to those who live with virtue. Such giving, filled with genuine intention, gradually nourishes the mind with inner brightness. And it is this brightness of the mind that later reveals itself as outward beauty, even the natural charm some people possess, the quiet ease others feel simply by being near them, arises from a disposition free from habitual anger, a heart that, even when disturbed, refuses to allow resentment to take root, never storing the fire of hostility within. Because each moment the mind chooses calmness over anger, it is cultivating a profound inner balance. And that balance slowly transforms into an invisible force that draws people closer, effortlessly, without the need to create any image or pretense at all. When we begin to see life in this way, we gradually realize that karma is not something distant, nor a force waiting to reveal its results only in a future lifetime, but something actively shaping the mind, personality, and direction of life in every single moment. Even the smallest details, the way we look at others, the tone of voice we choose, the emotions we decide to hold on to or release, are quietly drafting the blueprint of our future. And as this understanding deepens further, we naturally begin to question the very idea of fate itself. Because what most people call good luck or misfortune may not be coincidence at all. Being born into a respected family, living with financial comfort, receiving admiration from others, or having greater opportunities in life does not arise from luck drifting in from nowhere, but is gradually formed through countless small actions, repeated day after day, in ways so subtle that almost no one ever notices them. The Buddha revealed a truth both profound and remarkably simple, a quiet secret for those living ordinary household lives, the training of the mind to place itself rightly in the world, especially when encountering a virtuous monk or a person grounded in moral discipline. Moments like these are never merely social encounters, but mirrors reflecting the true condition of our own minds with striking clarity. Cultivating genuine reverence is therefore not blind belief, but the mind's ability to recognize goodness without being obstructed by ego. When a person sincerely appreciates virtue, the heart naturally inclines toward fortunate destinations without force or calculation. Even small gestures, standing up to welcome, offering a respectful bow, or preparing a seat for one worthy of respect, may appear outwardly as simple manners, yet inwardly they become deep training in releasing pride. Because ego is the invisible wall that allows a person to appear elevated on the outside while becoming confined within. One who can sincerely bow before goodness is unknowingly planting the causes for future dignity and noble circumstances. Then comes the abandonment of stinginess, which has little to do with how much one possesses, and everything to do with the ability to let go. A mind that does not cling excessively begins to expand, and everything to do with the ability to let go. A mind that does not cling excessively begins to expand, and an expanded mind can no longer be ruled by possessions. Generosity practiced according to one's means is therefore not reluctant sacrifice, but the transformation of external wealth into inner strength, and giving offered with pure intention gradually becomes a continuous cause for prosperity, resources, and opportunities unfolding in the future. And perhaps the most essential practice of all is listening to the Dhamma, because no matter how wealthy, respected, or nobly born a person may be, without wisdom life can still lose its direction at any moment. Listening to the teachings is therefore an opening, a space where truth is allowed to reshape our understanding of life, revealing cause and effect, revealing impermanence, and revealing the hidden workings of our own mind with increasing clarity, until wisdom itself becomes a treasure that no one can ever take away. When we begin to see the whole picture unfold in continuity, we slowly realize that true greatness in life does not begin by elevating ourselves above others, but by training the heart to be humble enough to learn, gentle enough to respect, expansive enough to give, and still enough to let go. Because true nobility may not be the family into which we are born, but the level of consciousness we patiently cultivate through repeated actions each day. And in the very moment the quality of the mind begins to change, the direction of destiny quietly shifts as well, without waiting for miracles from anywhere at all. And as the mind becomes refined enough to observe its own inner transformation, life often guides us toward deeper questions. Questions no longer concerned with success, wealth, or even worldly happiness. For many people, upon reaching a certain point in life, begin to sense a shared and silent truth, that no matter how much is gained, the heart continues searching, as if there remains an empty space within, one that nothing in the external world has ever truly been able to fill. And it is precisely at this turning point that the teaching of the unconditioned begins to reveal its true meaning. The Buddha did not guide humanity toward chasing something new, but gently pointed back toward a truth that has always been present, merely concealed beneath the endless fabrications of the mind. The unconditioned element, known as the deathless, or nirvana, is therefore not a place, not a reward, and not a heaven awaiting us after death, but a state completely free from the conditions of arising and ceasing altogether. The Buddha described this state as one where birth does not appear, decay does not arise, and once established, nothing can disturb it. It is a stillness fully awake, not emptiness in the sense of absence, nor annihilation of existence. What is deeply worth contemplating is that nirvana does not mean gaining something more, but rather the ending of the mental constructions the mind has been endlessly creating throughout life. For human beings remain lost within the conditioned realm within body, feeling, memory, thought, and perception, which together form the five aggregates, and through this confusion, we mistakenly believe these ever-changing processes to be ourselves. Thus we struggle to control, defend, and cling to what can never stop changing. Suffering therefore does not arise from the external world, but from clinging to what is constantly changing as though it truly belongs to us. It is like trying to grasp flowing water in the palm of our hand. The tighter we hold, the faster it slips away. Nirvana is not an escape from the world, but the clear seeing of reality as it truly is, until the mind no longer reaches out to cling. When attachment ceases, mental fabrication fades with it, and when the process of fabrication finally comes to rest, what remains is a state that has never been born, never decays, and depends on no condition whatsoever. Though it may seem distant, Every person has already touched the shadow of this state, if only for brief moments, in those instants when the mind becomes peaceful without desire, without fear, and even without the thought that I am at peace. In that very moment, fabrication pauses, giving rise to a lightness and ease beyond explanation. The path to liberation is therefore not the perfection of a self, but the gradual realization that the self we cling to is merely a process shaped by causes and conditions. And when wisdom sees this so clearly that it no longer falls into attachment, the mind returns to its original freedom, no longer struggling, no longer needing to become anything, and no longer needing to preserve anything at all. True freedom is not getting everything we want, but being free from the compulsion to desire, free from the fear of loss, and free from running away from change itself. Because once this truth is deeply understood, life as a whole is seen anew, shifting from accumulation to letting go, from outward seeking to inner awakening. And to see this attachment more clearly, imagine a child sitting quietly on a beach, carefully building a mound of sand with deep pride, shaping it into a house, a castle, an entire city formed by his small hands. In that moment, the sand is no longer just sand, it becomes something meaningful, something personal, something completely claimed as mine. And the instant a wave rushes in and washes the sand away, the child cries, becomes angry, heartbroken, or desperately tries to protect it with all his strength. Even though, in truth, the sand was never his from the very beginning. This simple image reflects the human condition with profound clarity, because what we call ourselves is nothing more than the unconscious construction of the five aggregates: body, feeling, memory, thought, and perception. All of these are grasped by the mind through pleasure and fascination, giving rise to the belief that this is me, and this is mine. And when the body changes, sensations shift, memories fade, or the body slowly declines, suffering immediately arises, because what we struggle so hard to preserve is simply fulfilling its own nature, to change, to break apart, and to dissolve in every passing moment. The depth of this teaching does not lie in forcibly destroying the five aggregates through sheer willpower, but in allowing the craving that clings to them to gradually lose its strength. For as long as we still demand that life unfold according to our desires, we continue exhausting ourselves trying to protect our fragile sandcastle. But when wisdom begins to see clearly that form is merely form, feeling is simply feeling, perception is only memory, mental formations are processes of conditioning, and consciousness itself is nothing more than awareness endlessly arising and passing away, attachment begins to loosen on its own, like a child who has grown older and finally understands that the sandcastle was only ever a toy. One day, he no longer needs to wait for the waves to destroy it, but can simply allow it to fall apart with a peaceful heart. Not because he hates what he created, but because he no longer needs to cling to it. This is the true heart of spiritual practice. Not escaping the world, not forcing the mind into numbness, but seeing reality again and again until craving naturally weakens. When desire fades, longing dissolves, anger toward change disappears, and life continues just as before, there is still a body, still thoughts, still emotions. Yet inwardly everything feels astonishingly light, because the mind no longer struggles to defend what was never truly ours to possess in the first place. True freedom, therefore, is not the disappearance of the five aggregates, but the ability to live within constant change without being ruled by it, like someone who understands that a sandcastle can be beautiful, yet destined to collapse. And when the moment of collapse finally arrives, the heart no longer collapses with it. Life continues to flow like waves endlessly reaching the shore. Yet the one who once wept over loss can now smile quietly, because at last, he has set down what was never truly his to hold. And it is in this very moment here and now, that a human being begins to taste genuine liberation. And when we look beyond the brief span of life we currently possess, the Buddha revealed a perspective so profound that many who heard it fell into silence. For what he pointed to was not something supernatural, but the reality of samsara, a cycle of existence stretching far beyond imagination. Every human being has wandered through countless roles, having been both the one who loves and the one who hates, the creator and the destroyer, the doer and the one upon whom actions were done. And if all the blood shed through repeated births and deaths were gathered together, its vastness would exceed even the waters of the 4 great oceans. This imagery was never meant to inspire fear, but to awaken awareness, reminding us that clinging to this single lifetime as though it were everything, may simply be forgetting a journey that has unfolded endlessly, without any discernible beginning. As long as the mind continues to be driven by greed, anger, and delusion, the same cycle quietly keeps turning, even when we are completely unaware of it. Even celestial beings dwelling in heavenly realms, surrounded by unimaginable pleasure, cannot escape the law of change. For when their accumulated merit begins to fade, the 5 signs of impending departure inevitably appear. Their radiant garments lose their brilliance, divine flowers once eternally fresh begin to wither, luminous skin slowly dulls, sweat arises from their bodies, and a subtle weariness grows toward the very paradise that once brought endless delight, until other devas offer blessings, wishing them a fortunate rebirth, and that most noble destination is not a higher heaven, but the rare opportunity to be born again as a human being. Because the human realm stands as a fragile balance, between pleasure that does not completely intoxicate the mind into forgetfulness, and suffering that is powerful enough to awaken the search for liberation. To be born human, therefore, is an immeasurably precious chance, not merely to chase success or accumulate experiences, but to finally bring this long wandering journey to an end. And the path toward that ending is not hidden within mysterious rituals, not found in sacred locations, nor placed in the hands of any extraordinary being, but rests closer than anything else we know, so close that we overlook it again and again. It is the very breath arising right here, right now, before us. Each time the mind becomes aware of the breath, without allowing unwholesome states to take control, even for the briefest snap of a finger, the cycle of samsara comes to a temporary halt, because mental fabrication is cut off right here in the present moment. And when these fleeting moments are repeated again and again, the mind gradually begins to stabilize, no longer drifting with emotions, no longer dragged by craving or fear, until the calm that once appeared only for an instant slowly transforms into an unshakable inner stillness. Liberation, then, is not something distant, not reserved for monks or extraordinary individuals, but a real possibility for every ordinary human being who dares to turn inward and observe the truth of body and mind exactly as they are, guided simply by the words of the Buddha as a compass, without the need to accumulate new beliefs, without creating a new identity, but gently loosening attachment one breath at a time. And when understanding fully ripens, the greatest transformation unfolds in silence. A human being brings an end to a wandering journey longer than an ocean of blood, through awakening to the truth within a single breath of this very present moment. Thank you for staying with us until the very end. If you enjoyed this kind of content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and join us as we continue the journey through many more stories together in the next episode.